Hey guys, what's going on? Xbox All in channel, host Sega Forever here. Sorry about my voice, feeling a little bit under the weather. Ironically, that's why I'm going to do this video. I had to take some medicine, trying to work that through my system. But yeah, if I be clearing my throat and stuff like that, you know why. But I want to do this quick video and talk about this because this is kind of bugging me this week. As you guys know, man, Microsoft has been just getting completely um, assaulted on every front when it comes to gaming, which is par for the course. But this has kind of gone back to like the 2015, 2016 era. Not as bad, but I would put it right there, kind of at that level with a lot of this stuff. And honestly, I like it. I think it's something that guys like myself needed, right? Being ultra focused on some of the stuff Microsoft does with their Xbox brand and the Xbox team does. Um, and again, being a fan and a consumer, I expect more from Xbox. But it took a lot of the drama that's gone on for the 2 weeks to kind of wake me up and snap me out of it. So I'm back. And we'll talk about this because, like I said, a lot of these people are being exposed. Hopefully, and again, I say we needed this because, like myself, I needed to wake up. I think a lot of people need to wake up. And I also think Microsoft, and I'm talking about Microsoft proper, needs to wake up as well. I understand that they're loaded. In fact, I'm going to share some stuff with you that completely blew my mind because I do try and keep up with this stuff. And excuse me, guys. Um, and there's a lot of stuff going on, right, when it comes to video games right now, as far as the industry as a whole. But with Microsoft, man, they seem to be above everything else, and sometimes I need to be reminded, and that's why I'm doing this video as well. I mean, we're gonna get on the media, no doubt, but let me share a couple of things with you because it'll help add perspective to what we're dealing with as Xbox fans and consumers. Because at the end of the day, we got to keep in mind that Microsoft owns Xbox. And a couple of years ago, Microsoft actually acknowledged Xbox. Now, what we're going through right now could be that acknowledgement could be good or bad. I think it's a combination of both, but still, 90% good. 10% I don't like what they're doing, but it's not going to break the bank for me. Um, and but still, man, I think Microsoft they pay attention to a lot of things. I kind of like their business acumen, the perspective, and stuff like that. But when it comes to culture things, that's where Microsoft is really weak, and even in the Xbox brand. Though I think Phil and his team has tried to correct that, at least under the tutelage of Phil and under Phil's leadership, which I do appreciate. They've kind of tried to make it more about the culture of gaming and not just the business of gaming. And I think that's where they're meeting loggerheads right now with all of this stuff that's going on. Um, but it's something that Microsoft needs to get a feel from. I mean, it's one of the things that makes Microsoft who they are, and I'm not saying that's necessarily good. Um, I mean, and they've done stuff, dude. I mean, with their software, um, stuff that they've done with their services, stuff that they're doing with their hardware that they make, right? Their Surface Books and stuff like that. In fact, a couple of years ago, there was a point in time I thought they finally kind of grasped what made Apple products so popular with their customers and consumers, and it seemed like they were going in the right direction that way, and and kind of um, they kind of took a step back and reassessed their situation when it comes to hardware. I'm talking about like their PCs, the products they make, and the partnerships that they have, which is fine. All businesses do that, and that's what this is kind of reminding me of. Now that I think about it, right? It reminds me of like what is going on with the Surface team. And they had a dude over there, I can't, Panos, that I really like, dude. And I like his energy, dude. I like his out of the box thinking. And for some companies, that's good. For other companies, it's not. And I think it was actually a boon for Microsoft after a while. Um, uh, but they Panos left, and then I don't know, like that division is like in this little spot for a while. I know that they're trying to change stuff and bring stuff back, and a lot of the stuff that they gained from that point in time when it came to their products is still being pushed forward. But that's what it seems like is going on with the Xbox brand right now, right? And how everything kind of pans out at the end, we're just gonna have to wait and see, right? But the one thing you guys don't need to do is be looking into the media, and a lot of these influencers, man. If you guys look, I know a lot of you guys who bleed green. I'm just preaching to the choir here, but I know you guys understand why a lot of these guys don't put out good information, And I say it all the time on this channel. A lot of the information they get is not because they're in the ecosystem or they have an Xbox or they play Game Pass. It's just what they get from the gaming media. And you can see Media Blast. We're gonna discuss that in detail, specifically Forbes. Look, dude, I don't normally put people on blast, but I'm gonna have to put this guy on blast today, man, because anytime I know it's informs, anytime that something's bad with Xbox or there's controversy with Xbox, and it's not necessarily bad, it's just the perception of it being bad. That there's this one writer, and I don't know who it is, Paul Tassi, right? He always does the articles. Now, if it's something that's a little bit more generic, something that's more, you know, news focused, newsworthy, it's the other dude. I can't think of his name right now, right? And this is not me to give Paul Tassi shine. This is actually me to make a point, right? That where you get your information matters. You know, you guys know I do a lot of other stuff on this channel, and whether it's entertainment, right? It's good to go to the source on a lot of this stuff, right? Um, like for me, a lot of people are talking about what's going on with Superman. Can't really talk about it because I haven't seen the movie and I probably won't watch it. Um, because the thoughts I gave on Superman was I don't think James Gunn was the right person to do the Superman movie. And from some of the reviews I've read and some of the discussion online, that's obviously uh, one of the problems is that he is the director of Superman. Because a lot of times, man, just because you're a good director doesn't mean you fit the subject matter. And I think that was one of the problems in my mind. He's great at Marvel. He was great with Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy was not a well-known project. Dude, a lot of people didn't know about Guardians of the Galaxy. That's why he was able to kind of just he didn't have to step on eggshells or tiptoe through the tulips, man. He just ran wild on it, and it worked out. And he's the reason why the greater cosmic universe makes sense, and it reminded me so much of that '70s cosmic universe, right? Superman is just a different beast. Anyway, my point being is that just because um, on this certain industry stuff, man, when you listen to the entertainment news, the entertainment media, politics, of course, all of that stuff, dude, you have to do the heavy lifting yourself. Dude. You have to do the research yourself. And in the case of video games, I think it matters because at the end of the day, it's a one-on-one experience that you're having um, with your game, right? And with that escapism, with that entertainment factor, all of that stuff rolled up into one. So knowing what you're buying, probably a good idea to do some research on stuff. I've been doing this long enough to understand what I like and what I don't like. For example, I played Expedition 33 last night. Amazing game. I love the look. A lot of the things that people said about the game is true. The only problem I had with it was the control, right? And for me, a lot of times for some reason I have to tweak my controller. Maybe it's because I'm old. Tweak my controller that took care of like the kind of the movement. I didn't have a problem with that. But in the combat situation, man, I did not like the response, the response driven. When you're trying to input your attacks or more or less your defense, right? Because evading or parrying is really paramount. And I'm just in the beginning of the game, so it seems to be a really paramount part of the actual gameplay. And when I played that, I did not care for it at all. Maybe it's just me. I gotta spend more time on it. I'll definitely put the time in because I love the story so far. The characters, um, not only do they look good, but they seem very interesting. I got to the point where I went to the other side. I started the expedition because the exposition on this game is it's there's a lot, right? And then to kick it off, dude, you have to go through this whole thing, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I can see why people love the dialogue, love the story, right? And it does do a good job of building up what's going on. And so now that I've gotten part of the expedition, and then we've launched, then I landed on the beach, and then all this everything went crazy, right? So it's me and another person from the expedition that are going through our paces right now. So I'm that early into the game. I got a couple of the camps I found, and I'm able to fast travel back and forth. But I really got used. I got to get used to that combat system, and that's one of the things a lot of people like about it. I don't know about the gameplay though. I mean, maybe like I said, I'll put it through its paces. Maybe my reaction time is just slow. It's just kind of like I talked to you guys about playing Towerborn. I played Towerborn, and I love I think the role is paramount in that game. It's much needed, but the thing with the roll is it's also attached to this kind of dash. So it's kind of like a dash in any roll. So I get caught a lot of times because I'm used to just rolling, and then I know why the dash is there. You need the dash to do specific moves, right? When you start unlocking the skill trees and stuff like that, I get it. I don't necessarily use those a lot of times. So for some of my characters, I would have just preferred just a single button just for rolling, and then maybe attach the dash to something else. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Again, we'll get into that later. But point being, so I went through all that diatribe to let you guys. I said all that things. I say stuff like that on my channel, so you guys know that I'm not lying when I tell you guys I bleed green. Right? I play Xbox. I play all of this on my Xbox. A lot of the games I own that I play, and then again, I love Game Pass. Right? So a lot of the games like Expedition 33, I'm playing on Game Pass right now. Right? If the controls if I find out like if it's me and then things I can do with the control and stuff like that, I'll end up buying the game because everything outside of the control for me is what I like the most. And it might not be the game; it could be me, guys. I find myself playing certain games that I can't play because of like right now, just getting dizzy. So not knocking the game, and I gotta put it through its paces. A lot of great stuff about the game, but that's the way I do it, right? Just like if I like the game, and then I'm kind of glad I tried it on Game Pass and I didn't buy it full price when it released because I did have some reservations about it. Um, but hopefully I can get past that control thing and I'll just pick it up. Right? And that's kind of the point that I want to talk about when it comes to this kind of stuff, right? Is just like the media and everything they say about Game Pass, absolutely unashamedly incorrect, right? To the point where you know that these guys don't have like Game Pass isn't for everybody. I've said that on this channel too. There's a lot of people, honestly, a lot of people. There are people out there that will not like Game Pass, right? But there has to be for various reasons, and a lot of these things that these people are citing, right, makes absolutely no sense. A lot of the stuff that they're talking about, right, especially when it comes to cost, especially when it comes to people playing the game, people buying games. The whole thing with again, I say this all the time on my channel. The whole thing with people not buying games has really nothing to do with Game Pass at all, right? Because sure, you could like just have Game Pass and play the games there, but you're buying Game Pass, right? You have to pay for Game Pass every month. And before you could roll this stuff up, you can't do that as much anymore. I mean, you can, and you can find deals and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you're gonna put something into it, and that's kind of what the purpose of Game Pass is, right? It's an affordable option for a lot of people, right? Some people, it's no different than the streaming stuff. This is what gets me about these guys who go hardcore on Game Pass, but a lot of them watch Netflix. I'm pretty sure they have subscriptions to Apple TV or they have subscriptions to Disney Plus, right? Or they buy their stuff digitally. All of that stuff, dude, it all matters. And I'm not here to weigh the good and bad of all that kind of stuff, right? We can have that's a discussion for a whole other podcast. If I could get a couple guys on here and we could talk about it in detail, that's not the point. The point I'm trying to saying is they're holding Game Pass to an unfair standard. And for a lot of you guys who are Xbox and you guys bleed green, it doesn't do you any good to listen to these people, right? Because they have a bias. And the sad thing about it is they don't think they have a bias, and that's a big problem. Right? Before I go down that road with the media blast, I do want to share this with you. Hold on, guys. Let me see if I can bring this up. All right. Sorry, guys. Can I show this? I put this all on my X account because it's easier to get to. Like this stuff, like again, the reason I'm showing this is just all about perspective at the end of the day. Okay, so hold on. So here we go. Nvidia beats Apple and Microsoft to become the world's first $4 trillion public company. Now, you guys know that Nvidia has been working with Microsoft directly. They got a lot of their chip stuff, AI stuff going on. Right. Definitely suggest you guys go do a deep dive on that. I might do another video talking about that directly. But yeah, these guys were in this race to hit 4 trillion. Obviously, Nvidia with this article being the first. And that's a huge thing, guys. That goes to show you, right, where we are in the economy. Like I see a lot of people online that will talk about the economy and how it's affecting them, and it's true, absolutely true. And they'll come back and they'll say, like they'll go out, right? And what I mean by going out is maybe they go to a mall, and they need to buy something because they need to buy it, and they're pinching pennies and they might walk by a restaurant and they see a lot of people in there eating. Now, I always tell my kids this, don't worry about what other people do. Kind of focus on yourself. But he brought up the point, like he was surprised a lot of people are eating because he can't eat. And what I like to tell people like that is that there are actually people in the world that have money, right? And it's not just because of greed, right? A lot of that could be sacrifice as well. You don't know what people spend their money on, what they don't spend their money on, where they are in their life, the choices they made. There's all kind of stuff to factor in, right? But at the end of the day, yeah, there are people that got it like that. There's a lot of people hurting with the economy, but there's some people that are not, right? And so I think it's a good, yeah, I think it's good to keep that in the back of your mind. And as you can see, because Microsoft and all these companies are getting hit because of all the layoffs and stuff like that, and they're still making profit. And there's a conversation to be had there, right? I definitely not. I don't want to shy away from that. And but again, just to give you guys perspective, right? While we're sitting here talking about like what's going on with Microsoft and the layoffs, or with other companies as well. The only reason I'm bringing this up is I have a pro Xbox channel, and when it comes to the gaming media, that's all they focus about. They're not talking about what's going on with Nintendo and the fact that they bricked their console, and that's I'm not a Nintendo guy. That's neither here or there for me, man. Whatever those guys are gonna do, the fans on that console need to take care of that. And I know some people are sitting here telling me it's for the a greater gaming good. Well, look, dude. At the end of the day, dude, I'm not gonna concern myself with Xbox if I'm being honest. Right? Like a lot of times, people be coming at me about that, and I'd be like, because they got these movements going on, and I was like, bro, do you own an Xbox? Did you buy an Xbox? Do you have Game Pass? You know, because at the end of the day, that's what matters to me most importantly, because that affects my bottom line. Right. So if you want me to care about your stuff, dude, then come over here and care about my stuff, in a sense. Right. And I understand, there's all this stuff about digital rights and all this kind of stuff. I'll be honest with you, man, that's like on the back burner for me. Right. Because right now, where I enjoy most of my gaming, like you guys know, because I'm a pro Xbox channel, is here, right, on Xbox. Right. That's what I do. That's why I'm Xbox all day. Right. So I'm more focused on that. Right. And the false narratives that are being spread about Microsoft, as like there's some, like Microsoft is some big evil corporation on one end, and then they're incompetent and broke on the other end, right? And so you have to find that balance, especially if you're going to be a consumer, right? And as for the fans, like I was saying earlier, man, this is stuff that Microsoft cannot ignore, in my opinion. They need to come up with this. Like I'm just one channel trying to get perspective, right? I'm throwing this article up here to show you guys, man, that the level that Microsoft, um, the level at which Microsoft is, and I'm talking about Microsoft Corporation. Again, I like to use the word proper, right? Is this they're on a whole nother level, dude. They're in the $1 trillion club, dude, and everybody else that oh sorry guys, everybody else out there, especially in the gaming media and on the gaming streets, people that like to talk about gaming culture, right? They're all the other companies that they support or things that they believe in and stuff that don't matter, dude, at the end of the day, because this is where Microsoft sits. Now, again, I think Microsoft should pay a little bit more attention to the culture. I do definitely believe that. Because the perception, as Hebot and E-Rock and all the guys like to talk about, right? Um, it has a somewhat of an effect, right? Now, again, I sit here all the time and say, look, just get off online and then go play games, which is what I do. But then when you come back, it's always like that. A lot of times when you do stuff like that, you just get away, come back, things have simmered down and stuff like that. But for Xbox, it's 24/7, and again, it's the perception that's out there right now. Okay, let me. Sorry, yeah, they're kind of lost in this real quick. Oh, there it is. Sorry. All right, but again, not too shabby for Nvidia. Congratulations, right? And a lot of this has to do with more than just gaming, right? We were talking about AI, the chips that are going to come from that, and politically as well. Where they're going to build this stuff, right? Where they're going to get the resources from. This is why you see all these countries, which is funny to me, right? Because a lot of people don't realize that. Um, I mean, just go play something like Age of Empires. I think that if you're a gamer, play Age of Empires. That'll give you a good idea. Or SimCity, a simulated game that'll show you like the cause and effect of resources and land management and stuff like that. That's what we're basically boiling down to, right? Who's going to be the world leader on the stage when it comes to tech, when it comes to resources, when it comes to development, all of that stuff. Right. But when it comes to gaming, for some reason, right? We don't look they can't look beyond just the tunnel vision of Microsoft sucks, or Microsoft's going broke, or Xbox sucks, or Game Pass sucks, right? They can't look past that, right? It's just all about Microsoft and Xbox. Look, I like to say this all the time: is Xbox derangement syndrome. That's what it is at the end of the day. A lot of these guys that are making content, they know they're going to get likes and views and clicks. People are going to watch them. There's people I see doing stuff about Xbox that have nothing to do with video gaming, right? And they get like at least 15,000 views. And that's across the board, guys. I'm not. Everybody does that, dude. Like, again, I told you guys about K-pop Demon Hunters. Absolutely love that movie. Now a lot of people are talking about it that might be in the entertainment space or a little bit in the nerd culture and stuff like that. They're starting to talk about it, and one of the reasons why is because their fans are asking them to talk about it or weigh in on it because they want their opinion, or they see that it's popular, so they want to talk about it. Maybe they watched it. Maybe they watched it on a weekend, right? So not everybody's like charged in to K-pop or animation and stuff like that. But when something blows up like that, that's what ends up happening. Unfortunately for Xbox, they get that a lot, but it's usually on the bad side. Right? So I think that's something that again Satya needs to address. I've thought about just like writing him, just to say something to him. I doubt he'll respond, but just I feel like look, dude, you guys need to step it up when it comes to this stuff. Hold on, let me go back. Let me try and find these other things, guys. But that's amazing to me. And Microsoft stock, dude, as you guys see here in a second. Where is it? Sorry. Like right here. Guys can see it. Microsoft stock price and news. Is this where it is today? Can I refresh this? Yeah. 503.92. It wasn't too long ago that they were like in the 300 range, which isn't bad. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying like that's a big bump up, right? And of course, this is why some of the people are talking about why people are getting laid off. The reason why people are getting laid off, guys, is that there's a myriad of reasons. I talk about on this channel all the time too, not specifically to Microsoft and their layoffs, but in general, right? You see a lot of people getting laid off in a lot of different industries. And again, it sucks. But nobody likes that, dude. I don't, right? But to sit there and say it's just because of Xbox being greedy or because their games suck, because Game Pass sucks and stuff like that, dude. If you hear people saying that stuff, dude, that's just ignorance. They don't know what the fine tunings of Microsoft is. They don't know how many of these people are on contract. And I'm not just talking about Xbox, because what ended up happening was they said 9,000 and they threw Xbox in there. Then in the reading, right, because they don't want to get in trouble, then they'll say, like 400 for the Xbox division. So it's 9,000 Microsoft across the board. And that's what I mean about the dishonesty of the media. And they do that on purpose, guys. They do that on purpose. Either they hate Xbox or Microsoft, or they're doing it for the clicks, which is sad. That's why people don't like the media anymore. That's why I do these videos, media blasts, because the media is absolutely they're at this point to me they're just demonic. They lie so much about everything, and they try to shift narratives and stuff like that. So I have no respect for them at all, if I'm being honest. Oh, sorry, let's go full screen. Oh, sorry, guys. Okay, here you go. So that's what I was looking at right there. Right. So this is what I talk about when I talk about Microsoft was being kind of assured. Like I don't have the same fears that the other people have when it comes to this. Right. My fear is more that Microsoft moves on, or some of the other things people are talking about right now, like some of the people that they let go. You could see that maybe they're doing that because they're going to implement more AI. And I'm not saying that I'm against AI, but it's like how are they gonna use AI? How is that going to help the games be better? Right? How is that going to help me with my console? And I'm not saying it's not, or it is, or it isn't. What I'm saying is how. Like we have to wait and see. Right. That's my point with all this kind of stuff. Right? That's why I don't care. Like I don't, because Game Pass is losing money. They're making a profit again, but because it's Microsoft, maybe they're not making the profit they want. That's different than them not making a profit and it's a failure. Right? Again, and you hear all the other guys say this as well. If this was a failure, Microsoft would have cut their line a long time ago. There's no point for them to do this unless they're getting something else on the back end that we don't know. Like to me, a lot of the great thing about them owning Xbox, it's a good testing ground for their AI and their tech moving forward. Right? And that's why you're gonna see them gonna do virtual reality, the VR headset, finally with Meta. I think they got it to the level where it's acceptable for them as far as on the gaming front. But that has way more to do than just gaming. That's all their cloud and stuff like that. That's where they're gonna be making their money. Right? There's this big race going on between them, Amazon, Google, Apple. Right? All of these dudes are in that mix right now. Right? So whatever way they can weaponize it, I guess that's the best way for me to put it. That's what they're trying to do, right? And that's why their stock is going up. Right? Their stock is going up because people are betting on their future. Because of all the big tech companies, they seem to have the foothold right now and moving forward. I think it's funny because Elon, you see him trying to do that with X right now, right? But he's got to play a little bit of catch up. You know, had he not deterred probably from with the political stuff, he probably would have been ahead of his time. Like you can see right now, he released Grok 4, so I'm going to be using that. I'll try and use it today, see how that turns out. But excuse me, guys. I got this runny nose, man. It sucks, and I gotta take some decongestion. I just took some medicine earlier, so I gotta try and space it out, and hopefully I can get some sleep because I was coughing all night. It sucks. And the only reason why I sound like I was like I'm not feeling well, and I sounded horrible earlier is just because I just loaded up on um, uh, acetaminophen basically. Okay, let's see. Where am I, guys? Okay, so that's something again. I find this really interesting. Look where Amazon is, 225. It amazes me that Microsoft jumped so much. Dude, they're up there with like guys like Lockheed Martin right there. I'm gonna go to Wall Street Journal. All right, and here's the other one. After hitting all-time high, can Microsoft reach 600 this year? To me, I recommend that you guys just do this type of stuff. Just go on Bing and search it. Get some points, right? We all use Bing points. Right? If you need Bing points, this is what I do. This is how I get my Bing points. Right? I don't mess around with the gaming media. I just go get the financials. Because the financials will tell you a more honest story, right? Because at the end of the day, it's numbers, and it's people's bottom line, so it doesn't behoove them to lie about stuff unless they're being dishonest and need to go to jail for that, right? By the way. But with that being said, see, after all-time high, can Microsoft reach 600 this year? Because their stock, as I showed you guys a little while ago, was at 500. Can they reach 600? I don't know. That'd be pretty amazing if they could. And again, when I see stuff like this, right, which they break it down, key points in the article: robust growth in Azure and AI-driven Copilot integrations. Uh, that's their. I mean, I don't know how else to cut it for you guys. That's kind of their business model moving forward. Now, again, how is it going to affect Xbox, us as consumers and fans? I don't know. I can sit here and speculate all I want to, but that's what the gaming media does, and it's always a negative slant. That's why you should never take these guys seriously, right? But dude, this would be crazy if they hit 600. Right? And then what does that mean? You know, what does that mean for the company, and in turn, what's going to mean for other products, not just Xbox, but everything across the board, right? And then, oh, I can't stand this one. I was debating whether to use this. Why Microsoft stock continues hitting all-time highs? Oof, all this crap that's on here. Okay, we're gonna go with that. Microsoft stocks trades near 496, fueled by strong cloud computing and AI-driven growth. So you guys are starting to see a pattern here. Strategic investments in data centers and open AI partnership position Microsoft as a leader in enterprise AI. Despite high valuation, robust earnings and efficient operations support continued investors' confidence. In fact, a lot of these things when they say whether if they're a strong buy or if they're a buy, they're a very strong buy. Imagine if you would have bought on the dip. you'd be sitting pretty right now. Microsoft stock price continues to set new records, and as of late update, it trades around 495. Now we need to blow this out of the water. It's over 500 now, so it did hit the $500 mark. The company's market value now stands close to 2.79 trillion, making it one of the largest publicly traded companies in the world, despite minor daily fluctuations, such as small drop of 0.3%. The long-term upward trend remains strong. The confidence of both retail and institutional investors in Microsoft is this strength is one of the main reasons behind its continued rise. Yeah, because everybody uses Windows or everybody uses their software. Right. It's kind of like their get out of jail free card, if I'm being honest. Stop sharing that. Sorry, I just got a lot of stuff on this, so I'm slow down. Go back to X. Again, just for perspective, guys. But perspective is key, guys. Perspective is key. This one? Yes, sir. Oh, okay. Let me switch. Nope, that's not the one. Let me go here. Ah, there we go. Ah, no, what happened? Oh, I guess I gotta pay for this one. I didn't have to earlier. Oh, we can just go down. Microsoft stock gets an upgrade. Why these analysts say it's underappreciated in AI. Right? And it can only go so far, but it basically breaks it down. Same thing. That's why I wanted to pull it up. But there's also there was talk about there's also talk about Microsoft doing that because of what they're doing in energy as well. And I talked about on the channel with you guys because of the energy that Microsoft needs to run these data centers and use the cloud. It's not cheap. It's not going to be affordable. So they have to find. I mean, if they were to do it on the old grid, which they can't do it because the grid would just absolutely just get destroyed. The grid as it is right now is really bad. You have more people using more power, more energy. So there need to be alternatives, and our government, with their bright ideas, decided, hey, we should do this with alternative energy. I think alternative energy is an option. It's not the option. It never has been the option. Unless you can get solar panels to be at 100% usability, right, and sustainability, which they can't. Unless they find some kind of element or some kind of make some kind of technological breakthrough. Right? I know photovoltaic was up on there and then photovoltaic because it was a more efficient solar panel, right? And as well, you guys know, man, if you live in certain states, dude, if the sun's not out or if you have a cold snap or something happens, man, flooding, right? And you can't get or even electricity, and even with standard electricity, stuff can go down, right? So, with flooding and hurricanes and stuff like that. But definitely with panels, dude, you don't have any sun, man. You're lost. It's one of the things I can't stand about having solar energy, dude. I have solar energy, but a lot of times, and I live in Hawaii, right? So with Hawaii, they think because everybody have this perception about Hawaii that it's always sunny. People don't realize how many overcast days there are, how cloudy it gets. That we have a winter season. It rains a lot, right? Which it needs to be because if you don't have rain on this island, people will die of thirst, right? Because you can't drink seawater, and we don't have any alternative to seawater and fresh water. That's what something you should probably be looking at. But a lot of our water, our fresh water source is an aquifer, right? Which is naturally made by the islands because it's volcanic. Right. So basically, you watch one of the shows where the survivalist shows, right, where these guys will filter water and they make a water filter and usually have sand, rock, right? They let the water drip through and it filters all the way through. And what that sediment does, it cleans out all the water, it cleans out all the bad stuff on the water and traps it in those layers of sand, rock. Some people use coal or whatever, right? Or not coal, but ash, not ash, birdwood. Anyway, that thing filters down, so the water that you get, that's more pure. That's kind of the natural process here. So if it doesn't rain here, right, you're hurting. And we have so many people living on this island now. And my point being is that there's no alternative, and so that's why Microsoft they cut through the chase. when it comes to alternative energy, right? Because they know the real deal about this, right? This is why I never liked all these companies talking about green energy and all this crap because they know that's not realistic, right? And where the rubber meets the road is when they fix their bottom line, as you can tell by the layoffs and by the decisions they make financially with their corporations and their people, right? And had they not gone through all this stupid crap with the green energy, right? They just should have been honest about it from the jump. There's nothing wrong with developing it. There's nothing wrong with looking at it as an alternative, man. But they know how much energy their products use. Right? They know they need electricity and they need a stable source of electricity. And alternative fuels is not that stable force, right? In fact, it's shown to be the opposite. Because what happens is with alternative energy, right? Sorry, guys. With alternative energy, it ended up getting weaponized because there's a lot of people wanted to capitalize on the money, right? Which to me isn't what the thing of sustainability is about. It's not about the money first. It is about sustainability. It is about doing more with less, and it is about nature and the environment. And that's not a good, to me, that's not a good combination with capitalism at all. Right. So I have no problem. Like I look at Elon Musk, he's building all these solar panels, right? And he wants to make a solar panel roof. I think that's awesome. You know how efficient that panel is going to be. His Starlink is pretty efficient. Some of the stuff he does is amazing. So if you can apply that same success to a solar panel roof, I wouldn't mind getting it. Right? Because he also has the batteries, so you could store the energy on the batteries in your house, and you can use that energy, right? And then also be on the grid, and you can use partly less of that energy on the grid to the point where you can be more self-sufficient, sustainable, right, within your own home. And that's what the bottom line is. Like a lot of times you watch these people that were living off the grid, everything is sustainability, right? So that's why they didn't have plumbing, or they would eat, grow their own food and stuff like that. Not everybody wants to do that though, right? So that shouldn't, so for people to sit there and say this was the big option, right? This is where we should have gone, right? That's all BS. Right? And these corporations do this, man, because they're the big energy grubbers that, especially the tech industry. Tech industry is so dishonest over the last 8 years with what they were saying and what they actually were needed to do. That's why when this election came in, that's why they all went. They all went. All these dudes went to Washington D.C. Right, because they're like, okay, well, he's the president now, so now we can get our plans right. Which is why, right, as soon as that election was over, dude, nuclear energy started popping up all over the place. And the sad thing about it, people's talking about nuclear energy for at least 10 years now, seriously, like talking seriously about it, right? Like questioning, is it really bad? Looking at the actual technology and how far we've come, right? But if you were on the green side, dude, you were just trying to shut that stuff down. It's kind of funny because people accuse the gas and coal companies of doing that for alternative energy. For me, I don't have a problem with anybody exploring any energy. But like, what does it bring to the table for me? Like, how does it going to affect me? How am I going to be able to utilize it? At the end of the day, that's what I look at, dude. I live on an island. So to me, sustainability is an important thing. It's actually in the culture of the islands here, right? And they haven't been adhered to it, man. And I'm a blue state, and these guys talk a good game, man, but they don't do any of it, right? Because at the end of the day, dude, this stuff got money, monetized, and that's not good because it's not meant to be that way. Right? The only most successful person that has monetized sustainable energy is Elon Musk, right? And a lot of people hate that dude now. And it's funny to me because people are telling me that I need to buy his cars, right? And was telling me what a good job he's done. Meanwhile, none of them talked about it with the deals he had with China or stuff he was doing with his mega factories or gigafactories, which consume a lot of electricity and energy, right? He launches rockets, dude. He needs fuel for the rockets. I'm not saying the dude is bad. I'm just saying, dude, it's just like this. Again, that's why I'm doing this video, man. Just like don't these people, man. You just can't listen to them. It's sad that it's like this. That you have to like do your own research. That you have to like be on top of it. I think it's good that you do it personally. For me, I think it's good, but I know most people don't like this, man. They're just too busy. Well, now you're gonna have to, or else you're gonna be stuck in the cold. Or you're gonna find yourself, man, like the old Looney Tunes cartoons, man, when Bugs Bunny got food and then his head turned into a sucker lollipop. Yeah, that's where you're gonna find yourself a lot of times. So anyway, getting back to the topic. Sorry, I'm rambling on, but yeah, dude. So Microsoft, that's another thing that they talk about is energy, and rightfully so. All these plans they have with AI and stuff like that, that's going to require a lot of energy. and it's good to see, and that's actually affecting the economy as well, right? This is where you see the shift in the energy policy of the current administration and of the businesses, right? There's like, okay, this is a more pro-friendly energy administration. So since the president that we have is in office, this is what I can do, and that's why they're pushing the nuclear energy option. Right? And I think we could do it, guys. Look, man, I'm not a luddite by any sense of the imagination. I think, yeah, throw caution to the wind, but at the same time, dude, I think you know, bigger, better, faster. Like watching, Steelers just celebrated their anniversary, man, and the old glory days of the Steelers and stuff like that. But football's changed over time. Right? It's not the same. It's not the same team. Though I will say, dude, they still have the trappings of the team, but things evolve. And so, if that can be true about sports or gaming or anything that I participate in, why can't it be with energy? And I think they have to look at nuclear. That's just the reality of it. But anyway. All right, so let's switch gears, guys. So I don't want to be on here too long. But just really interesting, right? For all the talk out there that Microsoft is dying, and dude, this is funny because I'm kind of having a Bible war with this guy on X, which I normally don't do. But I made a comment and then he got upset about it for some reason. I don't know. It wasn't a slight at him. He made a comment. I just kind of added to it. Like we do in the podcast. It's like when we add on to what somebody's saying. And dude, he came back and he's like, I was gonna let this pass, but I can't. And now I'm looking at the string that I'm on with this guy, and I'm like, dude, you should have let it go. And the reason why I say that, dude, it's nothing against the guy, dude, but if you come from a position of being dishonest, you're gonna lose. That's how I'm able to kind of win so many debates with people, because I kind of look at the situation or the topic or whatever we're gonna discuss, and I try and be honest with myself as possible. And there's times I've been wrong, and I've said, "Hey, man, good point." Like I said that. In fact, I'm gonna do a video about Japan on the channel, talk a little bit about what's going on over there. And then I made a comment in the comment section. This guy kind of came back and was like, "Look," he says, "Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong." But then he gave me some perspective. And at that point in time, dude, don't get offended when people do that to you, man. Like all the time, dude. When the guys are on the podcast, especially with Hebot will say stuff I didn't think about. Sega Man, dude. Sega Man will say stuff I don't think about. Like E-Rock was on here talking about DC. I don't know, right? So if he says something that I didn't know, or that and it's not anything about disagreeing or agreeing. Man. I just think I don't know why people are like that nowadays. Like you really can't say certain things without people getting offended. Like literally, like this dude got offended by what I said. And I could tell because his comment was, when you start off a comment says, I was gonna let this go, but and the messed up thing about it goes, you're right. He said you're right, but, and I'm like, okay, then what's the problem, dude? Just let it go. It's it's that's on you, dude. It's not on me. And one that I ended up doing is we were talking. I just got a little bit flippant with him, and he just got more mad, right? And he lost the narrative at that point, dude. Because at the end of the day, dude, it's something is bothering him. It has nothing to do with me, and that's how it is in politics as well. That's how I can talk to a lot of different people about politics, right? Because at the end of the day, I know what I believe. Same thing with gaming. Like, of course, I talked about this a little bit earlier. Nintendo, yes, they're bricking their consoles because people are playing games that's not official or whatever that Nintendo does, right? I'm not in that conversation because I don't have a Switch, or I'm never gonna buy a Switch 2. The only way I'll get a Switch 2 is my daughter wants to get it for Pokemon. That's it, right? And people are having debates about that right now, and I'm like, okay, whatever. So let me share this really quickly now. Hold on, thanks. Anyway, this is funny. Um, yeah, this is funny, dude. I'm sorry, I gotta get this straight. This is hilarious. What really is funny to me is like this dude I'm arguing with. I made a comment to him directly. Like I directly responded to him, and so he's responding to me, and then he says to me like, he references the original post, and I wrote back to him. I was like, yeah, I commented on your post, and then I or your tweet, and then I commented on the tweet for I commented on the overarching thread. And so I guess he went back and looked at it, and he didn't even do. See, this is why I think it's funny. Anyway, let's get back to the topic at hand. Sorry, guys. Which is why the gaming media sucks, because it does. Let me blow this up for you guys. Get me out of the way. Man, there's so many. I mean, I get it. You need advertisements and stuff. But here it is. Why it does matter if Xbox Game Pass is profitable or not? By this dude, Paul Tassi. Now, just to spoiler alert, Game Pass is profitable. It's already been confirmed in multiple interviews by Phil Spencer. Um, Even Satya, when he's talked about the position of Xbox and what they bring to the table, he's talked about it and says that they're doing very well as their business. We read articles out there. They talk about how the gaming division is on par or surpasses their software. Right. This is why they bought AKB. This is why they own Overwatch. This is why they constantly release seasons. Right. A lot of their money are coming from these microtransactions, and that's not Microsoft's fault. That's if you have a problem with that, talk to your fellow gamers. That's the direction this is going in. And I get it if you don't like it, but at the end of the day, these guys go where the money is, man, and that's just the reality of it. I don't know why people can't understand that. Why people feel the need to blame the companies that are making these things. Because at the end of the day, if you really want to stop it, just don't participate in it. The problem that you're having is that there's a lot of people that don't care. Either they like it or they don't care. Because again, at the end of the day, right, all the talk and the industry did this to themselves, and the gaming media contributed to all this. That's why we're doing a media blast, right? Is because they are the ones that sat there and talked about AAA gaming and how everybody needs to have studios. It's the same thing that Hollywood does with their when they try and make excuses for their Emmy award winning or Oscar nominated movies not doing well. Not saying that all of them don't, some of them do, but the most of them don't because it's about the art, it's not about the money, right? And that's the same thing that's been going on with gaming, right? It's not about it was about the art, and the money was kind of secondary, right? And even though they talked about it, like how many consoles they sold, how many units sold, and stuff like this, at the end of the day, the numbers weren't matching up, and this is why you find the industry in the situation that it is now, catapulted by the fact that there is a really bad economy right now, where people are penny pitching, and stuff like video gaming gets put on the back burner or taken off the burner altogether, because they have to pay their rent and people have to eat. And when you go into the store again and paying $100, right, for 7 items, that fit in one plastic bag, that's not a good look. People can't afford that, right? So everything else that's non-essential gets cut, and that's why gaming is where they're. It's a perfect storm, honestly, right? You have a lot of people that just play one game, that buy a console for just one game. A lot of people that are, you have a service like Game Pass and you have a service like Steam, right? Which I don't have a problem with because it gives me more options. Right, I talk about on this channel, dude. It's kind of like my demo disc in some aspects, right? If the game's good enough and it holds water, I'll buy it. But you shouldn't feel guilty about using Game Pass because Game Pass is actually built that way, dude. You're paying a subscription service. I say this all the time. I'm reiterating this because guys like Paul Tassi don't get it, right? And then all of a sudden, dude, just to care about Game Pass, right? When he probably never uses it, or if he does use it, if maybe it's not for him, so you just should step away. Right, for somebody like me, absolutely love it. Right, I got one more game, and I'm gonna finish my 8 month Game Pass 8 monthly titles or eight eight Game Pass games that I gotta play for the month of July. I already have like 7. Right, and I kind of do plan it that way, but it's also on how I feel. I'm kind of like what Sega Man does. I like to play a lot of different games, and I like to try all the games at least, even if it's a game I might not like. The only problem I'm having with Xbox is that it's tiring, but I have to keep on swapping stuff off with the hard drive. And for a service like Game Pass, that's not optimal. They have to find a way to get around that. And I know cloud is part of that, but certain games I play on cloud, man, I can't. It doesn't work well. right? So I ended up having to download games, some of those games anyway. Cloud has gotten way better, dude. That's a viable solution. If they could get it to the point where all the games, minus the shooters, minus the really intense games, doesn't have any lag, right? I think that would be a boom for them. It would definitely help me out, so I don't have to download every single game because I'm just trying it out for the most part. Right? If I like the game, I'll download it and finish it, or try to finish it. But I'll download the game and play it off the hard drive, right? But to save space, right? Because space is an issue. That's a really big issue, right? When you have a service that has hundreds of games, that you need to, they need to get that cloud gaming like I would say at least to 90%. And I know, look, some of you guys will go, I never have any problems. It depends, dude, where you are. Where I'm at, and maybe I'm not a big deal for a lot of these people because I don't know how many people where I live play Game Pass and play on the cloud. But if you want to reach every gamer everywhere, that's your motto, right? Right. Lowest common denominator, man. That's what you got to do, and that's by your words, not mine. So don't blame me on that. But there have been a slew of stories based around Xbox Game Pass over the last week, debating its effect on publishers, its profitability, and other issues. Normally, I don't do stuff like this, guys. I just see my commentary, but I do want to break this down. Don't expect this to become a habit because you know I'm not gonna just read stuff and just do it. But there's a couple of things we want to point out. So the last point came up yesterday when reporter Chris String said that Microsoft's claim that Xbox Game Pass was only profitable when you took out first-party consideration, as he was told no first-party costs are included by Xbox. But then he walked that back because he had to, because he was wrong. As sources reached out to him to say, actually, no, that's wrong. When you include lost revenue associated with first-party games, not just in unit sales, but microtransactions, Game Pass is still profitable. He said this is, however, still compounded by the fact that this doesn't include development costs for the game. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, dude. That's what these guys don't get, dude. And I know they use Netflix, right? I know these people use Netflix, dude. These people just reek of using Netflix. And I use Netflix all the time too, right? And that's what Netflix, like again, K-pop Demon Hunters, it's ranked #1, right? This thing is going viral, right? Like so, people that don't normally watch these type of shows, either anime or don't know anything about K-pop, right? Because it has such a positive reviews, right? That people across the spectrum of entertainment are starting to watch the show. I see it on YouTube. A lot of this stuff's going viral. Cosplayers are getting involved, right? Reaction videos from people in South Korea. I might actually do a video on that as well, right? Because it's actually K-pop Demon Hunters, because on Netflix, it blew up more on the international level, right? Then you have the South Korean fan base of K-pop, and then you have the international fans, right? And so this stuff just kind of blew up, and it's not stopping. The momentum is real, right? And so what's happening is that it's gone viral. Sorry, guys, and it's the #1 movie on Netflix right now. I just looked it up. #1 movie on Netflix. All right, and this has been out since what? I think it's been about 2 weeks, right? And the bill for it was pretty good. It had a really, had a little bit of a sizzle when they're talking about the release. They showed the trailers, some behind the scenes stuff, the premise, right? And again, you know that something is popping off because what happened was, now when you go online, you see a lot of interviews and a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. And then you see people that are knowledgeable about the K-pop industry trying to break it down. And you have people that are into music and into soundtracks breaking it down. So again, and that's just one movie, right? And that's Netflix in a nutshell. Right? They could give you 5 misses, 10 that don't catch fire, and they're actually good shows. All that stuff is all factored in, right? But all they need is that one. That's basically what Game Pass is. Game Pass, again, if you guys didn't know, man, all these dudes know each other, man. The guys at Microsoft and the guys at Netflix, they know each other personally, so they talk about this kind of stuff, right? And that was the point of Game Pass. Now, video gaming is a little bit different, granted, right? As you obviously you can see, right? A lot of people have been exposed during this economy, which I absolutely love, right? A lot of these understoods, quote unquote, obviously incorrect. And I think that's good, man, because you need to have an honest conversation when it comes to stuff like this, okay? But that's it. That's the whole point of the studios, right? Regardless of how much it costs to make the games or not, right? And obviously, with Microsoft doing some of the moves that they're doing, and with the Xbox team doing some of the moves that they're doing, that's more of a thing now. But for whatever reasons, right? These guys don't know, dude. You can sit here and try. I can do it, dude. I can sit here and speculate. And I think I have a better chance of getting it right because I actually like the system, right? And then that's one thing these guys can't take away from Microsoft, dude. It's something I complain about, dude. Microsoft bends over backwards sometimes, a little bit for me, a little bit too much. But they gotta draw a hard line, right? A lot of the times, but they're one of the most user corporate friendly, especially in the gaming industry, man. They're very friendly, man. They're consumer friendly, right? You might not like some of the decisions they make, that's fine, but they bend over backwards. A number of times, I've had issues with them, and they've either caught me or addressed the issue or whatever that may be. Right? You can't say that about them. So why would they do that? Makes no sense. So if they're doing certain things, man, it's probably there's probably a different number of reasons why it's happening. And the last people I would listen to is these clowns. Okay, that's why I feel bad reading this article. I really don't like this dude. Right? Because again, at the end of the day, like this just says, Game Pass is still profitable. If it wasn't profitable, Microsoft would have pulled the plug. Microsoft has profitable stuff they pulled the plug on. Right. And that's the thing you got to be concerned about because maybe they're not hitting the milestones, like I say all the time on the channel. Maybe they're not hitting those milestones that they want Game Pass to be at. Like maybe Game Pass is at 50 million, but they wanted it by this time, right? For I think what Game Pass has been 10 years old, and by the 10-year mark, they expected to be at 100 million. That's a big difference, 50 and 100 million, and it has nothing to do with how successful it is, dude. It's just like okay, we invested this much, right? We expected to be here, but we're here. That's a big gap. Like if they were shooting for 100 million and they're only at 50 million, right? That's a big gap, dude. That's a big gap. But that has nothing to do with Sony. It has nothing to do with Nintendo. It has nothing to do with Paul Casey and how he feels, or this dude Chris String. It has nothing to do with them, dude. It's all internal. It's like what Microsoft is expecting and what they're getting for their money invested. And I know, dude, that's a horrible beast, man. Nobody likes that, but that's the reality of it, dude. I'm not saying I like it either, right? But that's the reality. It's like, okay, we expected to be here, but we're here. Why? Why are we here? Okay, why isn't this game finished? Why has it been since 2018 or 2019 since the trailer? And where are we with that? That's the questions that you end up getting asked. And you guys should know this, man. You guys, like, if you work for any type of company, man, you know this. This is stuff to do all the time. We're just on a big scale with a nearly $4 trillion company like Microsoft, or on a at the mom and pop store you work on, dude. It just is what it is, you know. It's like, why is the Pepsi not selling? Right? Oh, why is the Pepsi one selling more than the regular Pepsi? You better get more Pepsi one. Dude, you guys do that in your own house, man. It's like you buy your kids. Like I bought my kids, they were on this Lunchable kick. Then I bought like the big box of Lunchables, and they stopped eating it. Right? I was like, hey, man, you guys better eat that Lunchables. And they're like, I had to put my foot down. I was like, hey, at least eat more. Right? And then I just didn't buy it again. Right? Things change, man. You gotta adapt. So I've seen some people ask why. Oh wait, hold on. Let me make sure. Okay, nobody's there. Okay. I've seen some people ask why this debate matters at all, and why the profitability of Game Pass from Microsoft affects actual players. I think it does matter in a few ways, and it's not about whether we're emotionally invested in Microsoft's pocketbook. First of all, obviously, if you like Game Pass and what it offers, you do not want Game Pass to go away if it's badly underwater. Microsoft may decide to discontinue it and shift tactics for yet another pivot. They've already said it's not underwater, bro. Wrong right there. And Microsoft can't lie about stuff like that. They might talk around stuff, but they can't come. Dude, if they say that and it is, dude, they're going to get sued. You saw Sony trying to sue. Dude, look at AKB, dude. That was all upside, dude, and people tried to block it. That's why I can't stand these dudes, man. It's underwater. That's your assumption it's underwater. Right? And the fact that they're a big corporation, dude, there's people who be hoping that they say something that's stupid. Right? Dude, the lawsuits that you get for that crap, dude. If you don't like Xbox Game Pass, not for dumb console war reasons, but in terms of what it represents in the industry, it's funny that he says that because they console war all the time. Like they might not think they're console warring, but their articles and the stuff they put out gets weaponized, and they should be cognizant of that. That's why I tell you guys with this channel, I'm Xbox all in and I bleed green because I don't want anybody to think other than that. Right? Like if you're gonna come to this channel, you know what to expect. When I mean bleed green, that means I'm pro Xbox. Right, so if you come to my channel and you get offended because you're another console, that's on you. You don't have to stick around. You don't have to watch my videos. You know, just bounce, man. Go play your games on your service or on your console. That's what you should be doing anyway, instead of talking about Xbox. There is a game purchases a service nature to it that some may not enjoy, infecting gaming like it does television and movies now. It also reinforces a lack of ownership that plagues many games now with things added or subtracted. See, this is why he's doing this article because he's probably keeping up with the stop games movement, which again, I'm not depth into it that much, right? If you guys know me on this channel, you guys know guys like Hebot and Sega Man, right? We're a lot more on the ownership things of stuff. If you know me politically, if you watch my political, you know where I fall on that kind of stuff. Dude, I think it is an issue, right? But at the end of the day, dude, I'm trying to apply that to Game Pass. You can buy the games. You can buy the games, and some of those games are physical. So the bigger picture of what's going on, because basically what he's trying to do, he's trying to blame Game Pass for this, right? But at the end of the day, the industry is going in this direction anyway, whether you have Game Pass or not, right? So he's being dishonest there. Yeah, it is affecting. He's not wrong in a sense. It's affecting gaming, but it has. It's not just Game Pass, dude. It's people that are buying their stuff digitally, and not just on Xbox, PC, PlayStation, Nintendo, wherever, which I wouldn't recommend that now, right? And so the stuff that's going on is outside of Microsoft and Xbox. In fact, Microsoft and Xbox have been trying to be as consumer friendly as possible, right? Right. The reality, like how they got blamed for the $80 games, which is not them, it's the industry shifted that way, and it actually started with Sony, right? In fact, they gave Sony kind of cover. Like the Sony ponies, like they won't talk about that, right? The one that kicked us all off is Sony, as they always do, dude. So I tell you guys all the time, Sony back in the days, kings of proprietary, right? And the industry followed. That's why I tell you 100 million times, I don't want them to be the industry leader, right? Because the stuff that they do is more focused around Sony and their ecosystem, which isn't good for the rest of us. And that's a real problem, right? And these guys feed into it. This is why I can't take them seriously when they report on stuff. When they're trying to be like take that high moral ground, right? All of it means nothing to me because if you look at what they write about, who they support, their consoles of choice, all that stuff, it affects the industry directly. And yet they sit here and they're like, oh yeah, Xbox Game Pass because in terms of the industry being profitable for Microsoft poses issues. I'm like, so Sony's not trying to be profitable, Nintendo's not trying to be profitable, you know, Steam's not trying to be profitable. None of these companies want to be profitable. And this is why, like, a bad economy has shined a bright light on this kind of stuff with a lot of people, man. At the end of the day, they say a lot of things, man, but when the rubber meets the road, where do you really stand? And as you guys can see, money matters, right? Especially in the tech industry, it's all fun and games, and everybody, you got to roll into work at 8 instead of 7. Go, stop by the cafe, get you a donut and a coffee. Take one meeting, then go down, do some yoga class and stuff like that. Like just people showing the videos. They had it like that. They had it that good. Those aren't those times. And so everybody's having to shift. And the gaming industry is no different. Man. That's one of the good things. If there's a silver lining to any of this, is that because a lot of people need a reality check. There are now larger questions about Game Pass within Microsoft itself. A few years ago, there were questions about whether Microsoft would continue investing in Xbox at all. I've never heard them say that. I've heard people talk about it. I've heard people interpret that like this dude is doing. All right, there's supposed to be some insiders that are talking about that. For me, it's kind of like that business thing, maybe. Like, whoa, where are we at on this project? Or where are we at with this stuff? But obviously, that was not the case. I'm pretty sure every company goes through this kind of process. Now, to what level they were doing it, given the amount of money and investment they have on it, I doubt it was a serious conversation at all, if it was at all. Right. And again, like I said, I don't trust these guys. So clearly it hasn't shut down, but with recent large-scale layoffs and game cancellations, there are fears that things are moving in that direction. Yeah, that's happening everywhere, bro. That's happening everywhere. Every industry. Right? It's probably happening in your town where you are, bro. Probably went to a store and the store was closed. Right? That's the reality of it, dude. Again, this is not about Game Pass or Microsoft. It's about everything. And this is what irks me about these guys, man, because this stuff deals into actual real world issues. Video gaming is not, you're not going to die without video gaming. Might not be happy, like, I love video gaming, right? But at the end of the day, if I had to choose between this, feeding myself and my kids, food takes priority. That's just the nature of it, right? And it's not a Game Pass thing, dude. It's not a Microsoft thing. It's a economic thing. It's happening all over. So very disingenuous. If Xbox Game Pass is either not profitable or actually unprofitable for a megacorp that is now laser focused on building AI, it's easy to see how a low margin arm of the company may be better served as babies thrown into AI tech. Yeah, that's the direction everybody is going in. That allegedly is just what happened with these recent layoffs and closures. With that same money headed toward AI. If that happens, you just lose Xbox, the brand, the consoles, the games, all of it. No, what? What? See, look, dude, how did you go from that to this? If that happens, you just lose Xbox. See, that's why, dude. Again. Okay, so everybody's electricity bill is going up. Does that mean we're going to lose electricity? You see what I'm saying? That makes no sense. Will it have an effect? Yes, it's already having an effect. And again, not just on Game Pass at Microsoft, it's happening all over. Right? I work in a place which is really very people heavy, right? But because of AI and because of shifting economics and stuff like that, what they do is, right, they just don't open the positions for hiring anymore. If somebody retires or that position was set to bring somebody in to hire, right, what they do is they said, okay, just pull that hiring action, and then we'll just focus on where we at right now, right? Which usually means that you're going to pick up some duties. That's what it means. That's one of the biggest things in a lot of evaluations, right? Other related duties. That's a big thing because that stuff happens. Right? They talk about it. See, that's why I can't stand this prick, man. Just because of AI, all of this stuff can happen. But if Game Pass, the central product of Xbox now, actually is printing significant money, that makes it less likely. That's not the point of Game Pass, right? They are printing money. Might not be the money that they want, but again, this is why I showed you guys the $4 trillion thing, right? You got to think on a higher level, not on a us level, right? Because to some people, selling a million copies just not of a game is not enough, right? Especially people who console war, right? They want to see those big numbers, right? So at the end of the day, when you're looking at it, right, and you're thinking about where Microsoft sits on all of this, when they're up there with Apple and Nvidia just broke the ceiling that Microsoft and Apple are trying to get through, right, with the $4 trillion club. This should give you some perspective, right? Because they'll sit there and they say, how does somebody make so much profit? Just fire all these people. Well, how does somebody that make all this profit just throw their brand away? They're making money on the Xbox brand. And that's why they're trying to diversify it. And I've had my feelings on that, right? That's why they're trying to spread it everywhere because they're looking at making more money or drawing more avenues, right? Because when they look at where gaming is going, and this is why I did the other video, was we're not willing to have that honest conversation when it comes to Xbox and gaming, right? We're not having that honest conversation we need to have about where are people spending their time, where are people spending their money, why isn't the gaming industry as big as it should be, right? You have all these 2 billion gamers. Like, what are they doing? What are they doing with their money? What are they doing with their time? And when you start doing that, you begin to see the actual issue with gaming, right? A lot of people just buy one console, play one game. There's games that just people play that one game. There's a lot of games that release. If you guys are on Xbox, this is what pisses me off about these dudes. And no, they're not. They're constantly dropping games every week and almost every day, right? So if you're out there making games, trying to get it noticed, right, trying to get it out there, so you can choose to use Game Pass and you choose not to use Game Pass, right? That's on you. But the simple fact that you got to get eyes on your game, man, but so many other people are doing games, that's another thing that you have to take into consideration, man. People have only so many time during the day, not just about the money, but the time. I saw a study where somebody did where they talked about Steam, and I'm not picking on Steam. I should put Xbox guys here as well because I'm in the same boat. We own so many games that the possibility of us finishing those games are probably zero. Right? So we're buying the games and we're not playing them because we don't have the time. Right? And for somebody like me, that's really a problem because I buy games for the most part. If I like the game, I just buy it. So that's usually I'm going to Game Pass to get a discount, but for the most part, it's full price. Or on the flip end of that, dude, you forget about a game because you have other games you're playing, and then you end up getting up at on sale or discount. So that's a real conversation that people got to be having. This is why Microsoft with Xbox they look at more than just the bottom line numbers, like how people like to use always PlayStation sold these many consoles. Okay, that's great, but like what, how many games do they sell with those consoles? If everybody that bought a console, right, and you guys are at 75 million, and all those consoles, everybody that bought that console bought God of War, then you're in good shape. God of War is in good shape because it's like 75 million copies. But of course, not everybody's gonna like not everybody likes God of War. Even though it's a very popular game. and but it's also a game that you have to put some time in. Not a lot of time, but I'm still trying. So my point being, guys, it's just they're trying to tap down the spending habits of what people are doing. And that's why everything seems to be all over the place because it is, right? And that's why you get Microsoft buying some of these companies, right? Because that's money. Every People can hate on COD all they want to. People still buy it. And people buy the season. I see it all the time. I play COD, right? I see it, dude. People complain about COD and it's rushed and another season it sucks, right? But then when I'm playing, dude, I see people with the skins. So I'm not saying they said that, but what I'm saying is people are not bothered, right? So to me, when I see that, I'm like, oh, maybe COD is the only game they play, so they can't spend the money on that, or maybe they're super rich and they can buy whatever they want to. I play Towerborn. People seem to be a lot more conservative about the purchases and stuff like that. But I do see people like myself who buy. I like the game. I try to support them, so I bought in-game cash, and plus the product they had and they were offering is awesome. Some of the best I've seen in a game in a long time because it stays true to what the game is. It's nothing that's it's like when you're trying to sell me skins, right? And of course you can do the marketing thing when you're trying to use products that people like, right? Like Overwatch does that with their collabs, which I think is pretty cool. I don't have a problem with that, especially if something that I like. But at the end of the day, the thing that Towerboard does is it knows what it is. It knows what type of game it is. It knows its art direction, its art design, and that shows in the product that they sell on the store. And that's why you see people buying it or people using it because it actually enhances the game because you're playing as the character that you like and you got to look at the character. I'm not saying that's for everybody, but people that do that like that about Power War, and that's why it does so well. Hopefully, it'll do well in this economic times, dude. That's neither here nor there. But let me see. Let me try and finish up this article, guys. Uh, did I read this part? If Xbox defense. Okay. Let me see. Yeah, okay. If that happens, you just okay. The brand, the console game is all okay with that. Essential product of Xbox now actually is printing significant. Okay, I read this part. Whether Game Pass succeeds or not in long term affects how gamers spend their money, how they access their games now and in the future, and even that the very existence of Xbox itself. I don't know. And the games associated, it is a big part of their plans moving forward. I will say that, and rightfully so because it's awesome. If people just don't listen to the media and actually use it, you can make your own determination. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people will like it. And the only questions that people will have is like when it comes to Game Pass, because I've seen legitimate. One of the most legitimate complaints I see about Game Pass is people like I don't. I'm paying for the subscription service, but I'm only playing one game. Like they see the wealth of games and they're spending money on it, and they don't feel they're getting the money investment because they only play one game a month, right? Now there's ways around that. That's what I do, right? I would feel the same way, right? But I don't. I play a lot of different games. But he said the very existence of Xbox 7, the games associated with it, what once seemed far fetched seems like more of a possibility, even if Xbox maintains it's not going anywhere. But this is a company that just months or days has ex executives that were smiling and nodding about promising upcoming games, and now those have been shelved as of last week. So who knows what happens from here? But we know it heavily relies on the success or failure of Game Pass. So I mean, like I said in the previous video, and me and Unlimited talked about it. If it was probably, if it was Fable, I probably wouldn't like it. I'll be honest with you guys. If it was Fable, right? But I get over it because there's 100 million other games I can play on my Xbox and on Game Pass. That's the reality of it, dude. And then a lot of people that were just doing the single thing, doing we're just gonna go with PlayStation. Now they're starting to come over to Xbox too, right? Again, if you want to make money, you have to go everywhere, and that's what Microsoft is doing with their brand with Xbox. Okay. Dude, these people. It's like, dude, they make executive decisions, man. People make executive decisions, dude, and they're not knowing. and they're just painting this picture that it's all bad. And maybe it is like that. I doubt it though. I very much doubt it. It's just, and the reason I say that is just the way that Microsoft does business. That would be out of character. Canceling something to them, given the amount of stuff they canceled, stuff they bought for billions of dollars and just got rid of it, or just kind of plucked it clean. That you can say that. Right? But them having an emotional reaction to canceling the games, no. Now the people that worked on it and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we don't know what progress did these guys make, right? Who left? Who stuck around? But for me, man, let me just stop. I'll stop sharing this, guys. Go back to the main studios. But for me personally, man, at the end of the day, dude, I'll go fire up my Xbox and play games and get lost in it, dude, and just think what a great time it is to be a gamer, right? Because as a gamer, you're getting a lot of gaming, more so than I've ever gotten in my lifetime, and I've been doing this my whole life. And it's not just games just for game's sake, dude. There's a lot of good quality games out there. A lot of games that are genre specific. Again, not every game has to be a Academy Award winning video game. Right. In fact, the industry wasn't built on that. Right. It was just built on people who enjoy games, playing games, regardless of what type of game it was. At the end of the day, and I know we live in different times, and people are so plugged in, especially on the internet. Right. In fact, I need to disconnect a little bit. But anyway, guys, that's all I wanted to say. Kind of ran long. Sorry about that, but man, but if there's people that I would not listen to, Paul Tassi's definitely one of them. The guys at Digital Foundry got exposed with their stupidity this week, shilling for Nintendo's console. And I don't think they're shilling and getting paid. People say, "Oh, they're probably getting paid." No, I think they like that. I mean, they like their brands. They have their favorites, and it shows in their reporting. I don't know why people watch them, especially if you're an Xbox guy. Everything they talk about Xbox, even when it's positive, is negative, right? And then again, man, like all these people jumping on the bandwagon talking about Xbox, don't know anything about Xbox or Game Pass, right? But anyway, again, sorry this ran long, dude. Just had to get that off my chest. Don't follow these guys, dude. If you do yourself a favor, just buy the game. Just buy a console and just play the games. Get Game Pass and try it for yourself. Because at the end of the day, once you play Game Pass, and if you're a gamer, you'll love it. You'll love it, dude. I just played, like I said, Expedition 33. Glad I had it in Game Pass, man. Had some issues with the controls, right? That's why I like Game Pass. And again, playing Tarborn. Need to get back to Indiana Jones. I think today I'll try out Doom. I'll try it. No, maybe I should jump that. I'm not feeling that. I don't know. I got one more game to finish my 8. I fired up Tomb Raider again. I haven't played that in a while. Never finished it, so that's good. I own it actually, and it's in Game Pass. That's the funny thing. Like I see people talking about this. Oh, maybe I'll play the Ascent today because it's in Game Pass, so I can get my Game Pass game, and I can get my playing a game on console for the day. And if you guys have noticed on my thing, I've been using the PC, but I've just been playing solitaire, and I got Oregon Trail, so you get points for playing PC every day too. So I've been doing that. And I think you get a bonus for like if you play for the week straight. That's hard for me, man. Like I told you guys, I don't play on PC. But I do get up, or I do like make time to play solitaire. I do love solitaire, and so that's what I've been playing. And again, Oregon Trail. But when I look at Ascent, maybe I'll play the Ascent today because I started it, never finished it. That's most of my games, and it's a great game. And I knew so I loved it so much I bought it from the jump, right? Because I love top-down shooters like that, dude. It's an amazing looking game, especially back then. It's been out for a while, and again. I try and be nice, but it's frustrating to me because there's so many people that talk so much about Xbox and talk about Xbox not having games or give Microsoft a hard time about their services and stuff like that. And then they start posting stuff about the Ascent, and I read it, and I'm like, whoa, dude, you never played the Ascent? Now, in fairness, I didn't finish the game. So this will give me a good reason to go back and finish it. But you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean, dude? If you probably that's one of the games you should have played because at that time that's what Microsoft was getting hit for, right? So just like Sunset Overdrive. If you're telling me you're an Xbox guy and you never play Sunset Overdrive, like you're there day one, then I'm like, dude, how can you be at day one and not play Sunset Overdrive? That's just me though. That's just me. But anyway, guys, thanks for joining. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I got a couple other videos gonna come out today. stuff I want to talk about, not really gaming. And might do some pop culture stuff. I kind of do want to talk about Superman a little bit, or talk around it. So I'll probably do it all in pop, and then we can talk about a lot of different things, about different topics. Because again, I didn't see the movie, so I don't want to give like my review. Can't review and we can't talk about, but we can talk around it. We can talk about the culture um, of Superman. I saw a really great interview on Piers Morgan, and he had Nerdrotic, huge fan, and then he had Dean Cain, one of my favorite Supermans, and Chris Core from Frankfurt. I love that guy too. But anyway, guys, Xbox on the channel. I'll take it forever. We out.